Hey there, Drawyah here, and welcome to this video where we shall be taking a look at the Airbus A320NX Project for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is a freeware project put together by human developers who are currently going through the default aircraft systems for the A320 and upgrading them from the ground up. So similar to how the Zibo and Ultimate team in the 737 work on X-Plane, where it's the default aircraft built up with brand new assets and system functionality, what these guys are doing are building up the default A320neo with all new systems, all new overhead panel, all new MCDU and different systems upgrades that will slowly build up as time goes on and more development goes into it. And so we're going to take a look at that today. We'll just go through the installation process and take a deeper look at what new systems are currently available and what will be coming soon to the aircraft in the future. Installation of the A320NX Project is very simple, and links to everything shall be in the description. So that includes the Discord server they run off of and the GitHub repository itself. So all you have to do is head over to the A320 updates thread, where they'll update you with the latest version of the aircraft. Click on the link, and that will do is open a GitHub page. Head down to where it says source code, click on that. Open the file, and just like that, the aircraft now then downloads to your local drive. What you then want to do is go to your community folder within your flight simulator. In my case, I've set a custom location, so it's therefore in C Games Microsoft Flight Sim Community, but the default locations are now up on screen for you to reference, and therefore head over to your community folder, open up the zip file, head into the folder, and then drag the A32NX folder into your community folder. And just like that, the aircraft is now installed, and your default A320neo will now be upgraded with your new systems. Let us run through the startup process of the A320NX project, and let's see what new features have been added that have been built upon top of the default A320. First things first, we'll turn on the battery, we'll turn on the fuel pumps, turn on the external power, turn on the navigation logo lights, and set the strobes to auto. We'll clear the master warning alarm, and well, first thing you can see, our displays are now in self-test mode. So this is the Airbus way of testing your displays to make sure everything works properly before they switch to its primary flight function. So your primary flight display, your navigation display, your engine and throttle setup, warning messages and aircraft system messages, and your ECAM. The ECAM in the A320NX project is fully functional and does work just like the real aircraft should. So start off with the engine display. You can see at the moment not too much going on here since the engine is switched off, but it monitors your total fuel used, your engine oil, your engine pressure, engine temperature, as well as other small information as well. Next we have the bleed page, which shows you the air bleed throughout your aircraft. So at the moment everything's shut off at the moment, but as you power the APU, as you power the engines, this will start to come to life. Next we have the fuel page, which shows you the amount of fuel in both the left and right hand tanks, as well as the centre, which at the moment is empty, and also the fuel flow between the fuel tanks to the APU and engine. So at the moment, all that's switched off. If I were to turn on the fuel cutoff switches, now the fuel flow to the engines are vertical, and therefore a connection and down been made. If I switch them off again, now horizontal, fuel flow has been cut, and therefore fuel is no longer going to the engines. Also displays your fuel flow, both engines 1 and 2, in kilos per minute, and your total fuel on board. Next we come to the APU screen. You can see the power unit, and again, not too much going on here at the moment, but as you start up the APU, we'll be using this to monitor our APU startup, also checking out about the process of how that's all running. And finally, we have the door page. So only cabin doors open at the moment. Earlier on it was both the right hand cargo door and the rear cabin door as well. At this stage both the cargo truck and the catering truck have now pulled away, and therefore with the jet bridge connected, this is the only door that's now open. As that door closes and we start pushing back from the aircraft, the slides will then become active, so the cabin crew will be in charge of that. So let's have a look at our PFD and our ND. Both right now currently red, inactive, and not displaying any information. That is because if you go to the overhead panel, the ADIRS and the IRS are now fully working. So we'll set them all to navigation mode, so 1, 2 and 3. We'll jump down to the FMS, head to initialization, and let's plug in our aircraft routing. So flying from Heathrow, Echo Golf Lima Lima, to Helsinki Vantaa Lentoasema, which is Echo Foxtrot Hotel Kilo. Plug it in, and now the IRS is now in align mode. So it'll take a couple of minutes for this to come to life. So just like the real aircraft, the further away from the equator you are, the longer it takes for the IRS to align. So as you can see, our PFD is now active. The virtual horizon has now appeared on the screen, but our heading mode will take a few moments to come to life. So while we wait, let's plug in the flight plan, shall we? Flight number is BA6032. Our cost index is 5, our cruising altitude is 360. Zero fuel weight is 50.2. Our center of gravity is 20.71. Plug that in. And our block fuel is at 10.6. Now jump over to the flights plan page. And let's now plug in the routing. So our first waypoint will be Bravo Papa Kilo. Then it will be flying to Brain. We'll then fly to Redfar. Afterwards, we then fly to Tulip. Following Spy. That one. Insert that. After Spy, we then fly to Grony. After Grony, it is Ekrau. And then finally, we fly to Divan. Plug that all in, insert the flight plan, and have a quick check. IRS now aligned. So if we zoom out and go to plan mode, also one thing worth noting as well, so if you switch between the different modes, it now says mode change on screen and doesn't jump instantly. So just like the real aircraft, it takes a few seconds for it to load up the display and present the information for you. And so as you change, it now says mode change between different screens. Go to plan mode, we'll zoom out, we'll check the flight plan 2 seconds, make sure it all aligns properly. So nothing skips, nothing jumps. That all looks good. We'll set departure as well, so departing runway 27 left by the Bravo Papa Kilo 7 Golf. Insert that and go to performance mode. So 125 rotates, flaps 1. And flex temp is 67. Transition altitude UK 6,000 feet. That all looks good. Also make sure we set the pressure hectopascals, and current QNH is 1011. We're back to the overhead panel. We'll turn on the seatbelt sign. Our seatbelt sign is now fully functional in the simulator, at least with the A320NX. Again, one of the small additions that have been added to the project, which just brings it to the next level. Before, the seatbelt signs were in-op, but now you can switch them on, and just as that small but extra bit of simulation from the aircraft cockpit. At this stage, we're now ready to start up the APU, so we'll turn on the APU master switch. The ECAM automatically switches to the APU page, and so before we start pressing the start switch, what we're now going to wait for is the flap open. Options pop up. And so once the flap is open, the APU is then ready to start, and therefore we can now start powering the aircraft up. There we go. APU starts, and we'll now monitor this. So unlike the default A320neo, which saw the APU start up instantly, it does take a few seconds to warm up, it does take a few seconds to power on. So wait for the N1, or the N in this case, to start increasing. The EGT will jump up to around 900 before slowly stabilising. And as soon as both are stable, then the APU will start up. The bleed, as you can also see, has been cut, and so once you start up the APU bleed, then switch to a vertical line. And then from the bleed page also, you'll be able to see that the APU bleed is active and will start flowing power and air through the aircraft. So we'll monitor the N and the EGT. In just a couple of moments we'll be able to hear the APU engine starting up at the back of the aeroplane. In just a couple of seconds, if we go back to the FED panel, the starter switch will then switch to available, and as soon as it does, we'll then turn on the APU bleed itself. There we go. It's like I say, it's not an instant process anymore. It does take a few seconds of waiting, so they go AP is available, bleed is active. If we go over to the bleed page, we can now see that the AP is active and powering the aircraft systems on board. Therefore, the external power can now come off. So it's no longer an instant process, but you don't have to wait for everything. You need to wait for the aircraft to actually turn on before you can use it. We'll set the cockpit cabin heating to around the middle position. In just a couple of moments, we'll get ourselves ready for push and start. So QNH is set up. We're cruising at 36,000 today, so we'll set that up as well. I am happy with the aircraft systems and set up. So what we're going to do now is head back to the FED panel, turn on the beacon lights to alert ground crews that we're ready for the engine startup. Therefore they'll clear the area, clear the ground for the pushback to come into play. And now, what we're going to do is switch over to the door mode. We'll pull the pushback tug by pressing Shift P. The door will shut, the slides now come active, the jet bridge will move away from the aircraft. We'll turn on the engine ignition mode. The ECAM will automatically jump to engine page, and as soon as we start pushing back, parking brake off, and engine 2 starts. So just like before, now I'm onto the engine, so the N2 will start to come to life. That will then get followed by the N1. Next, the engine temperature will start to increase, as does the engine pressure. And very shortly, the fuel flow will start to increase. So fuel flow goes up, and total fuel used will start to increase. The aircraft pushed to the right now, so we can start taking to runway 27 left. And then as soon as we hear the PTU, the barking dog, so around that time, engine 2 will be stable, and then we're going to repeat the same process for engine 1. So what we're looking for is around 19.5 on the N1. 58.5 on the N2, 40 psi on the engines, and temperature, as it is, brake off, increase the park and pushback truck. Now start up engine 1, repeat the same process, so monitor the N2, monitor the N1, monitor the engine pressure and the temperature. And then as the fuel flow increases, the total fuel used should start to increase as well. If we go back to the fuel page, you can also now see that the total fuel flow is 7 kilos per minute. Fuel on board will slowly start to count down as the engines are active. So the benefit of having the ECAM fully functional is that you're no longer having to second guess the aircraft. All your stats are there, all your information is there, and so it's now a lot easier to actually manage your aircraft, manage your process, and it's just a lot easier to fly the aircraft as a whole because, like I say, you're not second guessing it anymore. You can see exactly what your airplane's doing, and therefore you can follow along its process, follow along what it's doing, and monitor everything from top down. Lower flaps down to 1. Turn on taxi lights. As engine 1 and 2 are stable, so both at 90.5 N1, both at 38.5 N2, 58.82, sorry, and PSI both at 40. We'll now shut off the APU, so bleed off, master switch off. Go to the APU page, we'll now see it start to slowly power down. And it takes about a minute between the APU shutdown for it to completely powered off, and so the flap takes about a minute. The bleed completely cut off, and therefore not having any influence on the aircraft. And back on the bleeds page, you can now see the APU is completely cut, while the rest of the aircraft systems are now fully active. Let's now release the parking brake. Let's slowly increase the throttle. And as we do, we'll see that the engines will start to cool down a little bit, because the cooler air around the engines will now flow through them. As we slowly increase the throttle, you'll notice that the N1 will increase, the N2 will increase, the engine pressure will be rather stable, and the total fuel used will start to count up. So that is how you use the ECAM within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and within the A320neo. I hope you found this video helpful in taking a look at the A320NX project, and also a quick look at the different systems that it now introduces to Flight Simulator. I for one will definitely be keeping a close eye on this project as they continue to develop and continue to upgrade systems in the airplane. And it's something that I hope you guys do it too as well, because it's certainly exciting to see default aircraft assets used to improve your simulator as a whole, and it should be rather fun this, especially with the A320neo. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Do leave a like if you did enjoy it, do subscribe as well if you haven't done so already, and do share it around as well. I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to see an upgrade to the A320neo in the simulator, and this is certainly the easiest way to do it, with the whole team behind it who are currently working to develop and upgrade the aircraft as a whole. And all for free as well. The developers are doing this on a purely voluntary basis, and therefore they're spending their time upgrading the aircraft for us and not asking for anything in return. It's projects like these that definitely do benefit flight simulation as a whole, and also gives more people access to this kind of content without costing them an arm and a leg. Thank you very much for watching, you take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the near future. Bye bye.